The thunder and lightning caused major delays and even cancellations to the high school football slate last week. Some more of that wet stuff is predicted for this week too. But let's see if we can dodge those raindrops because we have some really great matchups in the Metroplex. Let's start by previewing our game of the week, Allen against Coppell. The Eagles have been almost flawless their first two games. Possibly the state's best wide receiver, Theo Wease, has already caught 4 touchdown passes in the Eagles' first 2 games. The Allen defense has been more stifling as they've allowed 20 points all year, and those points came in garbage time last week. The Eagles have not lost to a DFW team since 2012. That team was Coppell. So the 2-0 Cowboys come into the game knowing they've beaten Allen before. Coppell is led by two-way star Jonathan McGill and running back Ryan Hurt. This game is one of only 2 road games for the Eagles and should be their biggest test of the season. Another huge matchup this week takes place on Thursday night when Highland Park visits Frisco Lone Star. What can you say about the Scots quarterback Chandler Morris? All eyes have been on him this year since he's replacing a legend in John Stephen Jones. Magnificent. In 2 games, Morris has thrown for 673 yards and 6 touchdowns against strong opponents. Add to that 5 more touchdowns on the ground, and he has the Scots ready for a possible three-peat. However, this will be Highland Park's first road game of the season, and Lone Star is one of 5A's best teams. The Rangers have dominated their first 2 opponents by over 40 points and defensively have only allowed 1 touchdown all year. New quarterback Julian Larry has been helped by star receiver Ify Ofri, who's caught 3 touchdowns already. This one should be a good one. And finally, a game that should keep the scoreboard operator busy is Arlington Bowie at Rockwall. The Yellow Jackets were forced to cancel their game last week because of weather, but they're definitely ready for their home opener Thursday night. The deadly combination of Jacob Clark and Jackson Smith will cause nightmares for Bowie's defensive coordinators. On the other side, the Vols' Malcolm Mays has found a favorite receiver in Emmanuel Muhammad. This should be a high-scoring affair. We gave out our first MVP bobblehead last week to Bo Hogan-Bargile. Despite sloppy playing conditions, we've come up with 3 more candidates for this week's award. Let's take a look. Trajan Bridges of Hebron is off to an amazing start. Last week against Arlington Martin, Bridges scored all kinds of ways. He caught 4 passes for 64 yards and a touchdown. And then he ran the ball 5 times for 106 yards and 2 more touchdowns. His big playability helped the Hawks blow out the Warriors. Arlington Bowie quarterback Malcolm Mays made the best of poor weather by putting on an aerial show against Mansfield. Mays threw 4 touchdown passes and a 34-7 win over the Tigers. It was only a 7-point game at halftime, but Mays carved up the Mansfield defense in the second half, leading the Bulls to victory. And finally, South Garland quarterback Jaquarian Turner had a terrific night against W.T. White. Turner threw for a touchdown and ran for 4 more as the Colonels broke an 8-game losing streak. He also ran for 302 yards. South Garland also broke a school record with 613 yards on the ground against the Cowboys. Thanks to his big night, Turner is now averaging over 200 yards for the year. On this week's episode of Wingstop Inside High School Sports, we go out to Ennis to reintroduce you to Lions head coach Sam Harrell, who successfully conquered MS. Now, let's take a look at how last week's games affected our 6A and 5A top 5 rankings. Allen's impressive blowout win over out-of-state power Utah East keeps them at number 1 this week. Only change in the rankings is DeSoto, jumping to number 2 with their win over Jesuit. Duncanville moves down to number 3, but could be battling DeSoto for that 2 spot all season long. Number 4 is the Trinity Trojans. They hung on to get a big win over Saxe last week, 20-14. And Cedar Hill is still at 5, but may pass Trinity soon if they keep playing like they are. They shut out Geyer last week. In 5A, Highland Park remains at number 1. but they have the Lone Star Rangers this week. Might be their biggest test of the year. Aledo is still number 2 after thumping Bentonville out of Arkansas. Ranked 3rd is Lone Star, who could jump a few spots with a win over the Scots Thursday. Denton Ryan needed overtime to get by Fossil Ridge, but they remain at 4. The new team in the rankings this week is Frisco Reedy. After the Lions' big win against the Colony, they leapfrogged Colleyville Heritage, who was torched by South Lake Carroll this week. This last segment, we're gonna look at some of y'all's tweets from the high school football week. First, we'll start at the Trinity Pep Rally. It looks like they're rocking out and challenging everyone else to see whose rally's better. Roger Hamilton showing us our Week 1 bobblehead winners' in-game heroics with his pass to receiver Alex Gonzalez, making it a come-from-behind victory for the Eagles. Riley Dodge won his first game at Dragon Stadium and thanked his fans for staying. Ted Madden brought us a cool tradition at Pierce. Despite losing to Wakeland, still walking the length of the stands to thank their fans for coming to the game. Kenneth Polk Jr. scored his first touchdown of the season and watched it on replay on Wingstop Inside High School Sports. And Emmanuel Muhammad thanks his offensive line for being, in his eyes, the best in the state. We love seeing your tweets to us from the high school football week. Tweet to us at IHSS_DFW. You can also follow our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for all of your high school football needs. This will lead you up to Saturday night for Wingstop Inside High School Sports on NBC5 at 6:30 p.m. Hope we warmed you up for the beginning of a great high school football weekend. I'm Ashley Bullington, and thanks for watching The Warm Up.